I don't say it right away, then I've lost it.
You're about being shy.
Oh, I do remember going to the Grand Union, which was the fancy grocery store in town. This is long before supermarkets or anything like that. It was right up at the top of Greenwich Avenue. And the storekeeper offering me, they had these things down on the floor, containers that had cookies and biscuits, and offering me a cookie, and I was dying for a cookie, but was just so terrified and so shy that when he offered me the cookie, I burst into tears and wouldn't take it. You know, I mean, people laugh if I say that I'm terribly shy, but you know, I've learned how to cope with it, but I still am pathetically, uselessly shy. I just cover it up. There was something else. And at one point, well, so you can imagine there was my family living in this very elegant house. Of course, there were no more servants there then. Very elegant house in this really beautiful neighborhood. I mean, Belhaven was really quite special. It was right down on the water, and it was really, really very classy and very beautiful. And no money. And I do remember Mother hearing about there were going to be auditions for, I think, a movie in New York, and she took my sister and me in, and I think I was probably about 5 then. I even remember the dress that I wore, because all the clothes I wore were hand-me-downs from my sister, and as she said, Daddy never came back from France without picking out some beautiful French frocks for Banana, and they would get passed down to me, so I would go off to birthday parties in these really beautifully handmade things, sometimes with a great big thing of chocolate ice cream standing down because she loved chocolate ice cream. But anyway, I do remember this peach-colored little frock that I had on, and Banana, who was so adorable looking. I mean, she really, from the time she was born, she was just beautiful. But she just was a really, really lovely looking child, and she never stopped being lovely looking until she made the huge change in her life. You know? No, she really was very, very special. And Mother took the two of us into this audition, and it turned out they weren't at all interested in Banana, but they were interested in me. And it would, I don't know, maybe it was a movie about, I did know at one point what the movie was about. It was some very well-known story. And it was probably because the heroine of the story was a waif or something, you know, that's why they wanted me instead of this beautiful child with the golden curls and all that kind of stuff. And I really blew it because I just have this vague recollection of this man talking to me and everything. And I simply couldn't talk. All I did was just burst into tears. So I really blew it. But for my poor mother, it must have been so hard because, you know, this seemed like it might be a way of opportunity. In any event, it wasn't. I wrecked it. And then there were a number of people in the neighborhood in Belhaven.
And how old were you at that time?
I was probably 5.
Okay, wow.
I remember the pink peach silk dress with the little buttons on it. I don't remember too much else. But she'd taken me into New York to this audition, and it must have been sorely disappointing. But she never, you know, reprimanded me for my bad behavior. But it wasn't that I was bawling and screaming and yelling. I just blah, 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 blah. Anyway, there were a number of people my age in Belhaven, children my age, mostly girls, but a few boys. Just a very few boys. And when Mother started teaching me, she turned the children's dining room. I mean, you can imagine what kind of a house it was when it had a whole special dining room just for children. Because of course you didn't eat with the grown-ups. She turned the children's dining room. I remember the pattern of the wall, linoleum on the floor and everything very well. And I don't know, maybe started off with maybe 6 students plus me, maybe less. Maybe even before that, I do remember Aunt Rose, who married Uncle Jimmy and had one daughter, Mary Jane, our only first cousin. They had moved to Greenwich also. Uncle Jimmy was in the railroad business also, but nowhere near as I mean, he was a prosperous man, but not on the grand style of Daddy and Mother at all. And he was married to Daddy's sister, Aunt Rose. Anyway, I do remember Aunt Rose coming. I remember her walking through the children's dining room with 2 great big bags of food because we didn't have anything to eat.
Wow.
I mean, things were really, really desperate. And Daddy wasn't well enough to work, and there wasn't any work anyway. And anyway, so there was this, so Mother started this little school. It was just called Mrs. Teal's Classes. And that lasted for about 5 years there. And then the word had gotten around about how it was a really good place for kids to learn. Mother had never been taught little kids or anything like that, but she was so capable. She was just incredible. And I do remember that some children started coming from other parts of Greenwich. There was a boy whose name I was just about to say, and now I've lost it again, who came from another part of town I had quite a crush on. Anyway, but she played the piano and taught us songs. We did artwork.
Was this like 1st and 2nd grade, or?
Well, through the 5th grade.
Okay.
But things were really, really tough. I mean, the Belhaven Beach Club, you couldn't live in Belhaven without belonging to the Belhaven Beach Club, whereas we had a swimming pool, tennis courts, a lovely clubhouse. It was where, in the summertime, all the social life went on, and of course, there was none of that, so we never could go swimming there or anything like that, or have anything to do with it unless we were invited, and then it was kind of uncomfortable. There was a town beach out on an island, and I think I only remember going there once and getting so sunburned. I had these huge bubbles all over my body from terrible sunburn. But there are numbers of things that sort of pop into my mind that would be kind of boring to stick here.
So you were with her until the 5th grade, and then?
Yeah, and then, but I do remember all through those years when I was old enough that if the phone would ring, Mother would have me answer it. So by the 5th grade, I was 10 years old, and I would answer the phone, and it would be maybe the water department, or the oil, or the electricity, and they'd say if Mrs. Teal is there, and I'd say, I don't know, I'll have to see, who's calling, please? And I remember one telephone was in this great big wide front hall under the stairs. I'll have to see, who's calling, please? And then I would go and tell Mother, and of course it was somebody calling about, when are you going to pay your bill? Right. And I would come back and say, oh, Mrs. Teal isn't here. I'd tell her who it was, and she'd say, no, I can't. I'd say,